What's up, it's your boy L.Dre back with another video. I get a lot of people always asking me to do a video on how to mix lo-fi from start to finish, so I guess that includes mixing and mastering it. Sometimes I go over a little details, but let me just take you into a beat and show you exactly how I mix it, master it, get all the levels right for streaming purposes. Now when it comes to making beats to sell to rappers and stuff, it's kind of a different type of mixing that you have to do, but I'm talking about if you're like an instrumentalist and you want to have your beats ready to go to sound good on Apple Music, Spotify, whatever people listen to your music on, in their AirPods, headphones, car, dusty little $10 Bluetooth speaker, whatever it may be. So yeah, this isn't professional advice. Go to my Spotify, you can see I have over 250,000 monthly listeners, so obviously I'm doing something right. I don't know if it's the correct way to go about this, but let's just dive in and show you my tips and my tricks on just how to make it sound good. So we're gonna do the track Let It Go, Playboy Cardi remix, but just the instrumental. And first I'll just show you how it sounds real quick, and then I'll just put everything blank, no effects, whatever, and really show you guys the nitty and gritty of what I do. Alright, and this is it with no levels changed. Everything is the same volume. Let's play it again. Not horrible, but not good by any means. I really have a mixed as you go approach, so it really depends on how I'm making the beat. So for instance, I usually start with drums, but I don't really need to mix the drums until I start getting instruments, and I'll show you why. So let's say I started off with this tremolo piano, and I layered it with these Rhodes up here. Let's see what I have on these Rhodes. RC20 always, but you always want to make sure if you're using noise, don't overkill the noise, all right? I know a lot of lo-fi is super noisy, and that's fine, but for me, I don't like when the noise is just super prevalent. You know, you can always mess around with these settings, but just keep your eye on the noise, make sure it's not too crazy. And then here I have a glue compressor, just side chaining it to the kick, and I also EQ'd a lot of the low end out. I usually do this for Rhodes because Rhodes are pretty bassy, and so that it won't conflict with the bass. I'll get more into what I do for the bass to sound good later. Bells, so whenever I have a little counter melody, always lots of reverb, but you see the levels at -6. I always like to have it tucked in. It doesn't need to be nowhere near as high as the main chords. See, this is how it would sound full volume. Way too much. So yeah, instruments, I don't do too much, like just a few effects here and there, reverb, side chaining. Now it's really about the drums. When I mix my lo-fi beats, or any beats for that matter, I want my drums to hit. I know a lot of lo-fi beats, you know, the drums might be soft, the kick is off to the back, or the kick is a little fudge kick, I don't know. Yeah, I like my kicks to hit through, so let me show you how I get my drums to sound good. One thing to note, you see a lot of my videos, I normally drag in the drum, just the wave files. So for this, I actually played the drums on my MIDI, so that's why they look like this. And I just separate them so I can mix them easier. I'm not a fan of the drum rack and leaving all your drums in one. I mean, you could mix it in here. Like you can click each drum, change the volume and stuff like that, but why do that? Like I like to have it visible, separated. So #1 rules for me, my high-end sounds, I don't like when they're piercing through. So like the snare and the hi-hats, my hi-hats are always low. You see that -13 for that, -6. And then my snare, I always keep it low as well. Most of my snare samples, they're usually just like stabbing me in the ear. You can see like, look, snare, no processing. This one I EQ'd a little bit of the high end out, percussion, hats, nothing, no processing, no EQ, no compressor, nothing. So it's really about your sample selection and just levels. If it's too high, turn that shit down. Now kicks, the kick is where it gets a little difficult because your kick could sound good, but once you start adding bass and other instruments and stuff, it might sound a little low. So for this one, what I had to do is I had to layer it. So the kick by itself, I don't know, it just sounded a little weak to me, and I didn't want to just throw the volume up because that's just weird. So I just duplicated it. So let me show you how it sounds by itself and then with it. Now here's what literally just duplicated it, didn't change anything. Now, if you have on headphones or just some decent speakers, you can hear the difference in that. It's just a little bit more punchy. That's it, just a little extra punch. That's all I really needed. And then there's the bass. So, you know, a lot of people, you have trouble with the kick and the bass kind of fighting each other. So here's my bass. It's just a regular bass from Hybrid. I'll show you the exact preset. The big kick bass. So it's already a little muddy, but I also added Decapitator on it, just beefs it up a bit. And then I just sidechain it to the kick a little bit, like the threshold is a little bit, just so it can duck it out a little. And then I just EQ'd a bit of the low frequencies that made it too muddy and a bunch of the high frequencies. I pretty much did the same thing here with the kick and the bass. So I took a good amount of the low end out of the kick. Now look, I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but for me it sounds good. So another way to make the bass not sound all muddy, for the Rhodes, took the low end out. The tremolo piano, took the low end out, just so the bass could shine, you know? Oh, one more thing to touch on the drums. I did also layer the snare. So this is the snare by itself. Little snare that I used. I don't know why I even used that, but then I just paired it with the snare. Give it a bit more and a little more swing. And that's really it for the mixing process. Quick recap, when I do the instruments, I don't really change much, just RC20, maybe a little effects like reverb and stuff like that. But it really, when it comes down to mixing, it's really when I'm doing the drums and the bass. That's when I have the trouble. That's when I really have to go in and change stuff. But for the most part, not really changing anything. I'm just messing with levels. So I've talked about my mastering chain before. So I just turn it on. Maybe you can hear the difference. Honestly, wasn't expecting it to be that much of a difference, but really it just beefs it up. So this is how I get it ready to be streamed on your phone, on your earphones, whatever it may be. This is how I get it to sound up to par when it comes to like other songs on other playlists and stuff on like streaming platforms. So pretty much I have Ozone here. Ozone is key, all right? For a lazy producer like me, Ozone is key. You just throw it on, pick a preset, and you just mess around with the presets, and low key, most of the time, you're straight. So this, I have the light cleanup preset. That's what I use on all my beats. It's nothing special. It's just a little EQ. This imager, I don't even know what an imager is. I don't know what this does. And this maximizer, that's basically a limiter. That's what boosts the volume. Sometimes I mess with the threshold a little bit depending on how low the beat sound. Normally I have one of these loud maxes. Loud max is a free limiter. I keep the out on -3 and I keep the threshold at -2. So if that's not enough, I just duplicate it. I honestly just keep duplicating it until it sounds how I want it to be. So look. So yeah, that just makes it louder without distorting it or anything. If you're having an issue with the volume, half of the time you can just throw these on until you like it and it shouldn't sound too bad. I'll probably cap it about 3 or 4 though, like don't do it too crazy. But yeah, that usually helps me. And then lastly, I have this A1 stereo control. It just widens it up a bit. I have it a tiny bit. It's honestly not that big of a difference, but it's just been on my strip. So, and lastly, we have the glue compressor. Now this isn't in my chain, but I usually just throw this on at the end so it won't clip. It's just a soft clipper pretty much. If you look at my master, if I don't have this on, sometimes my beats are in the red and I just don't want it in the red, so I just throw this glue compressor on, hit soft clip, and it solves the problem. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully this wasn't too jumbled and hopefully you learned from this. But that's exactly how I mix my lo-fi beats. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind with lo-fi is it's not really a big deal. Like honestly, your drums don't have to be clean, your instruments don't have to be sparkling. It's lo-fi. It's supposed to be dirty, grimy, whatever. If you want my advice, just make sure it's loud enough and you'll be straight, because the average listener that's just listening to lo-fi as background music, they don't care about how high quality your hi-hat is, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's loud enough, as long as, if let's say you're in a lo-fi playlist or something, as long as your song isn't way lower than the song before it, 9 out of 10 you're gonna be fine. Or as long as your song isn't way too sharp and way too harsh on the ears, then you're gonna be fine. Just keep those tips in mind and you'll be fine as far as like Spotify goes. And that's it. So if you like this video, thought it was informative, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't been streaming the music, go stream it, bro. L.Dre on all streaming platforms. I'm aiming to get to 300k monthly listeners. Right now I'm at 270k. So please help your boy out, go stream the music. And yeah, more videos coming soon. As always, drop some comments, let me know what you guys want to see next, tutorials, remixes, whatever, and I'll put it on my list. I'm a table, don't let anybody tell you what you can or cannot be. L.Dre out.